All right. Procedure, this may go back to my newsroom, so I just got to do things right. First thing I need is your name and your title, please.
Excellent. My name is Allie Ryan Hansen. I am a special projects advisor for the Oregon Department of State Lands.
Fantastic. I can see your name, so I'm not going to ask you to spell it. So easy
Perfect.
enough.
Hopefully, I spelled it right, although it's
I
been a
also
little
have
bit of
your
a learning.
email, so if your email
Okay.
is correct, we have that too. Um,
Perfect.
let's start with what was the process to get this conservation plan set up for the Elliott State Research Forest?
Yeah. So the Elliott, I don't know how much you want me to dig in here. So the Elliott, um,
You
the
can go
Elliott
with
State
however far you like.
cover makes
I'm
sense.
almost new to this, so whatever you got, I'll do.
Perfect. Perfect. So, the Elliott State Research Forest has a history like no other forest in the state, and it's really a place like no other in the state. So, for decades, the Elliott was dedicated to generating revenue for Oregon's Common School Fund. That constitutional requirement really drove how the forest was managed, and a very heavy emphasis on timber production. So when a lawsuit over endangered species brought that timber harvest to a halt, the Elliott was costing schools money rather than contributing money to schools. And that was, I mean, nobody was happy about that situation. So this idea of a research forest was an absolute game changer. People saw that different things were possible with the idea of a research forest, and then they came together and worked together for years to make it happen. So when the state land board had this vision of a research forest that would be publicly owned, that would contribute to conservation, to recreation, to education, and make the Common School Fund whole. A habitat conservation plan was a critical piece of that vision being able to come to life. And with the securing of this HCP, we have a plan that, with federal approval of this HCP, we have certainty that the many benefits that the Elliott State Research Forest can provide will be achieved as we start active operations this year and will be achieved for decades to come. So it's a very cool moment in the history of this forest and everything that led up to this moment in time.
You mentioned a little bit about the schools there. I know Oregon State University for a time was involved, the Tsi tribe as well.
Yeah.
Where has the funding been coming from in recent years to get now this HCP complete?
Yeah. So the funding for this, there's two distinct pieces here. One is the funding that opened the door for us to be able to pursue the research forest pathway, and that came from the legislature. The legislature provided $221 million to the Common School Fund that allowed it to no longer be an asset of dedicated to producing revenue for the Common School Fund. And then in recent years, the legislature has continued to provide support for the Elliott by approving budgets for the research forest to get off the ground. So the budget that we have currently was general fund provided from the legislature for this current biennium.
And that's the state legislature, right?
The
Okay,
correct.
gotcha. Um, so the forest recently became the first research forest in the state. That's still kind of in the process of happening, I know. Um, how has that happened, or why did we choose the Elliott to be the first research forest here in the state?
Yeah. So the Elliott is an incredibly special place for many Oregonians. The Elliott is an incredibly special place for many Oregonians, and it's treasured by those folks for many different reasons. So, as we sought a future for the Elliott, it was really important to bring people together. People of many different perspectives came together to examine this idea of a research forest and really, examine it, up, down, sideways, coming together to work hard and say, is this idea of a research forest right? Can the things that I want to see happen on the forest happen with this idea of a research forest? And that's everything from timber harvest that'll contribute to local economies, to ensuring that recreational opportunities are still possible, that folks can still hunt and hike in the Elliott as they have been used to, and opening the door for educational opportunities as a place of learning. And of course, conserving habitat. The Elliott is home to really important species for Oregon and for the nation. And so wanting to make sure that all of these things that were important to people who felt really strongly and really differently about what was important to preserve as the Elliott, we sought a different future for the Elliott. All of those folks were able to see that, yes, the things that are important to me, the timber harvest, the habitat protection, the recreation, the education, all of those things are possible under the umbrella of a research forest. And that because the Elliott is such a big forest and a unique forest and offers so many different opportunities for telling us important things about practical ways that forestry can contribute to public benefits. It's also a ripe place for research to happen that will contribute to Oregon and to the nation and really to the world.
Awesome. That was great. Um, the HCP getting done now, again, next 80 years
Yeah,
conserved here. How does this affect the community, the people who, have fell in love with the Elliott, as you said?
yeah. This, I mean, approval of this HCP offers certainty that the benefits that the first state-owned research forest provides can be achieved as the Elliott begins active operations this year and for decades to come. So it ensures that all the things that people worked collaboratively to say this is important can continue to happen for decades with the Elliott as a working research forest. It's a key piece of offering that certainty that the Elliott State Research Forest will continue to be just as special as the place as it always has been, and that it will provide so many benefits, unimaginable benefits to our state and to our nation looking forward into the future.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about either the habitat conservation plan turning into the research center, or anything else that people need to know about this whole situation?
The only thing I think that's important for folks to know is, that the um, the piece about, we are poised to begin operations as an active working research forest. So the Department of State Lands is currently finalizing the initial operations plan, which outlines timber harvest, restoration projects, road maintenance, and all the activities that are planned for the next 2 years. So it implements the approved forest management plan and includes activities that are allowed under the HCP. So that is happening now. I think it can be really hard for folks to, it's been many years of hard collaborative work, and we get that people are, and people have lives and they're paying attention to other things. So it can be really hard if you're not in the middle of it to track what's going on with the Elliott. But what's happening with the Elliott right now is we are it the that what's happening with the Elliott right now is a working research forest is becoming a reality. We have an operations plan that's moving forward for approval, and we'll be able to begin implementing that plan this year, which is really cool and really exciting as well.
Do you have any dates or anything you're looking forward to get to this year for me?
Yeah, so the operations plan is we have there's a Elliott State Research Forest Board of Directors. They're meeting on June 11th to consider, recommending whether or not they want to recommend that the department approve the operations plan. And with that operations plan in place, that will let us advance timber harvest, that will let us advance restoration projects, that will truly see the forest come to life in 2025, which is, now basically.
One final question for you. With the conservation plan now in effect, you mentioned a little bit about the timber. I just want to go to the opposite side of things for a second. Um, from your standpoint, how does this affect the opposite side of things, the logging industry that has been so important for the state, really forever?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, is the question, how does the timber harvest, how does it?
Like, how does the timber harvest work now that we have a conservation plan in effect?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, at its heart, a habitat conservation plan is a way to ensure that a landowner is complying with Endangered Species Act requirements. So it allows us to do the activities like timber harvest that are covered under the plan while having a permit for some amount of incidental take and affecting those covered species. So what it really does is provides us with certainty that we can do that timber harvest and we will be complying with federal law in a way that allows us to avoid and minimize impact to covered species while still understanding that some incidental take may happen. So a habitat conservation plan, a habitat conservation plan is a way of providing certainty for us as the state, as the landowner, that we can harvest timber and still protect species in a way that we didn't have before. It's particularly meaningful because, a lawsuit over Endangered Species Act protection was the impetus for us exploring this research forest opportunity in the first place. And now that we have this habitat conservation plan, we know that we will be in compliance with the Federal Endangered Species Act and that we can proceed with confidence to keep the commitments that we've made collaboratively through many years of hard work, including being able to harvest timber on the Elliott.
So there will still be land like cut down and stuff like that, timber wise, just not affecting the animals. Okay.
Exactly right.
That's a very important
point. Yeah,
it's
an interesting,
awesome.
The habitat, it can be a little bit confusing because it's a plan.
It can be a lot confusing.
You make the plan, right? You make the plan and then you submit it and you say, these are the things that we intend to do. These are the activities that we'll be doing on this research forest over the next 80 years. And these are the protected species that are present in the forest. And here is how we plan to avoid or minimize impacts to the species while we're doing these covered activities. So you map out how it's all going to happen, what it's all going to look like, and how you can do these things while also ensuring that species are protected. And then when they approve the plan, you also get a permit for you're basically, they're saying like, yes, implement this plan for protecting habitat. Here is also your permit for incidental take of the covered species. Does that make sense? It's a little bit
I think
how
so.
it all fits together. It's just like, what,
I went into research on this project yesterday and I just spent hours reading articles over the last like 5 to 10 years. I'm like, okay, this is
I know there's
a
so much
lot more
coverage
complicated than what I thought.
Right.
So I'm planning to take a trip down there later to shoot some stuff down there. Is it going to be easy for me to find what species live there, or do I need to maybe reach out to somebody? Do you know anything on that?
It's in the news release.
Okay.
The species that are covered under the Habitat Conservation Plan, it's the marbled mirolette, the The marble murrelet, the um, northern spotted owl, and the Oregon Coast Coho salmon.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. You
Of
definitely
course.
helped me with some of the things I didn't understand,
Good.
and this story should be going out today. So I mean, if you want
Wonderful.
me to email you or something when it's up, I can do that, or
That would
just
be
be on the
awesome.
lookout, and we'll be on the air. So
Sounds great. Thanks,
all
Dan.
right,
Enjoy your trip to the Elliott. It's
thank you so
really
much.
a
I'm
very cool
excited.
place. So have fun.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.